in the beginning. In the beginning of scripture, it talks about a man who could do stuff with metal, and he was even able to make different types of tools out of metal. And again, it talks about him in the beginning of scripture. So he was one of the first people mentioned in scripture, and he had understanding on things. And even though you might hear what I'm about to talk about next taught on earth today, scripture doesn't say that human beings ultimately came from something called the Big Bang and that people evolved over time. And maybe like at one point in time, we were some type of goofy or kind of mentally incapable individuals that eventually evolved out of all that and became what we are today. And if you remember, I mentioned earlier, one of the first human beings mentioned in scripture was a man who could do stuff with metal, and he could even make tools out of metal. So he wasn't some kind of goofy, like mentally incapable individual that needed to evolve over time in order to have a brain that could do cool stuff. He had ability and understanding, no evolution ever even involved. The one that created us also created the universe itself. And our creator doesn't teach folks to call him Big Bang. Like he's the Big Bang and ultimately that's where everything and all of us people came from. So he doesn't teach that, nor does he teach that he created everything using something called the Big Bang. And please understand that there's really no such thing as your truth or my truth. There's just the truth. Because in this situation, either something happened called the Big Bang and we ultimately evolved over time out of that, or our creator created us, just like what's taught in scripture with no evolution involved. So only one of those two is true. And I've mentioned this before on here, but I've actually seen our creator. He does exist. So the fact that he exists speaks against the Big Bang and evolution. And I've even seen other people on earth talk about themselves having some type of communication or encounter with our creator as well. So I'm not even the only person on earth that knows he exists and is letting people know he exists.